So welcome everybody. We do these free webinars once a month, or I do them once a month. Me and my company that I'm the only employee of. And I started doing them, I guess, a couple of years ago or more, just as a way to connect with people, as a way to go to cover a topic quickly. Obviously, it goes pretty quick. It is also a chapter meeting for what we were just talking about, the Hypnosis Education Association, which is a Florida-based, not-for-profit educational corporation, and it's open to everybody. It was started about 23 or 4 years ago by a gentleman who got tired of all the infighting between, back then, the hypnosis groups. So he said, I want a group that everybody's welcome and everybody's friendly. And even if you're not in the field or in hypnosis, or if you're not a professional, if you're just interested, we want everybody there to learn from each other. And boy, has it turned into, it's my favorite group. It's a smaller group. There's no bureaucracy. I'm the president this year and next year, and we do our own thing, and it's just a beautiful little group. So Wes was going to be a presenter this weekend and last weekend, and we're going to get you there. And hopefully we're talking about third weekend in April is probably when it's going to be in Oldsmar, Florida. So this is considered a chapter meeting for those people who are hypnotists or hypnotherapists, can get a 1 CEU. And I've even talked to some people who are mental health counselors or psychologists that said their particular organization said they would also accept these trainings. So anything that I do online for any type of topic is good for CEUs. So keep that in mind if you're looking to get CEUs for your organizations. I have never heard in 30 years I've been doing this of anyone, well, I've only been a trainer for 20, but no, I've never heard of anybody in the hypnosis field not accepting my classes or little events as CEUs. We also added this year what we call hypnosis hangouts. It's a social event. We have a theme or a topic, and everybody comes on board. It's online, and BYOB, if you want to just sit and hang out like we used to do at the conferences. I always said I learned more through the years, well, a lot, let's put it that way, sometimes more in the after hours. After the conference seminars would end, we'd all hang out in the lounge or whatever and pick each other's brains. And when I was a newbie at this, I was soaking it up like crazy. And so that and the off time and the banquets and the social events, to me, is where you can learn a lot, just being a little more informal. So we're doing those hangouts. We will have at least one more before the end of the year for members only. Those are. And we did that because after COVID, we got some members and people interested in the group that came in, during COVID, and now they're members, but they can't necessarily or don't want to be here for the live events. So we started these online events so that even if they want to continue being a member, they will get plenty of value. And I came up with something called Living Legends, because there are so many great people that I've known for the last 30 years that are literally legends already and while they're still here, a lot of my trainers are gone now. And I wish I had videos of them that I could do interviews and show to my students. So we started doing Living Legends as well, that are online events for members only. So those two things are for members only, but our conferences and those kind of things, those are all for anybody who's interested in hypnosis, and you can just come and hang out. So that's the HEA business part of this. And the other chapter meeting, this is also a chapter meeting for the International Association of Counselors and Therapists. Some of you know that group, some of you are in that group. I know at least one person here that is going to be certified by that group very quickly, very soon. And so if you're familiar with IACT, it's a beautiful organization as well. You can go to their conferences that are once a year. They're called the Hypno Expo. It's been in Orlando the last few years, and it is going to be also in Orlando next year. They've got it booked for May 19th through the 21st. Their website is IACT.org, and they do it in conjunction with the International Medical and Dental Hypnotherapy Association, which is IMDHA.com. I always put that on the captions when I edit this and put it out on YouTube. But if you have questions, you can always contact me. At their conference every year, for the last few years, I put together a medical hypnotherapy specialty certification training. And it is for people who are already certified hypnotists with at least 220 hours of training in hypnosis from a reputable, credible, training, wherever you think is credible. I'm sure that's good enough. And we do that. I do that pre or post, sometimes a day before, a day after, sometimes 2 days before. And then if they want to get certified through IMDHA, the Medical and Dental Hypnotherapy Group, in medical specialty training through my organization, then they can take some additional training after the conference is all done. And that there's an extra fee, obviously, for that. And, you know, they get a certificate of completion from the conference, but then they can go on and get certified because it's considered a 50-hour training. So again, it's just the tip of the iceberg of medical, but it's a great way for people to feel confident going out and starting to interact and work with the medical community. So that's the business for IACT and IMDHA. And for my next free webinar, I will do one in December, on December 21st. And it's going to be on spiritual hypnosis, timely for the time of year, I think. December 10th and 11th, I do have one more training coming up this year for certified parts therapy facilitator training through the Tebbets Parts Therapy Foundation. That's the group that Roy Hunter, some of you know, has inherited that from his mentor, who was Charles Tebbets, the guy who created the parts therapy and wrote all the books. So that's coming up December 10th and 11th. You can look at all my stuff on uphypnosis.com. I also do a World Hypnotism Day every year. And it's a fundraiser ever since year one. If you don't know, there has been a World Hypnotism Day. It's officially January 4th. And I usually do a special thing the first Saturday of January, if it isn't the 4th. But it is January 4th. And it's been going on for, I think this is, I have when I'm preparing it, I think it's year 19. I've been, ever since the very first one, done it as a fundraiser. At first we did hospice for many years. And the last few years I changed and started doing it as a fundraiser for veterans. So the money the last 3 years, and it will again next year, go to the veterans of foreign wars in Newport Richey, Florida, because they're a small group. And I found out it meant a lot more to them than it meant to hospice. When I presented them with the check, it was a drop in their bucket, but it really makes a difference here locally. So hopefully that will. And by the way, I also, if somebody wants to donate to one of their local veterans groups and show me the receipt, you know, furnish a receipt, you can still come to our event, because it's going to be all online again. Last year we had Shelley Stockwell. We had, maybe I can get you Wes this year. We had a lot of great people. So that's going to be, the event will be on January 7th, which is the first Saturday in January. So enough of that business. That makes us an official chapter. And also I have to send in a roster. So quickly, if I can get your name and where you hail from, where you are coming to us from today, or where you're from if you're not in your home place. And since there aren't too many of us, we can add maybe just a sentence or two about what's your interest here and a little bit about you. And then we'll dig right into gratitude, because I'm grateful for all of you being here. And I'm grateful for this past weekend that was phenomenal beyond my wildest dreams. The weekend went so beautifully, and I recorded everything because it was on Zoom. So there you go. And Renee, you were there, so you can probably corroborate that. So if you could unmute, you can all unmute for now anyway. And Renee, you want to just tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you do?
I'm Renee Lemansky. I'm from Palm Coast, Florida. I met Patty at the IAC Expo, and everybody was so cool, and I felt very welcomed, and I am now getting certified through Michael. So that is why I'm here, trying to soak up more stuff.
That's Michael Watson, for anybody here who might not know who that is. I think everybody here knows who Michael Watson is. I tell everybody, I tell my students, you know, get training from Michael Watson as well. I tell my students, get trained from everyone, because that's what I do, and I still do it. And I've been doing this 30 years because it's never the same. And I've trained with Michael on the same thing multiple times. So thank you for being here, Renee. How about you, Jan?
I live in Loxahatchee, Florida, which is right outside of West Palm Beach. And there's so much to learn and so much to know. And I was so grateful when I came across HEA and Patty's little NLP fundamental. Now I want to know more about NLP, and Jan's presentation this weekend about the vagal nerve and stuff. That really piqued my interest. I just talked to a friend yesterday, and he's having problems with his digestion. And he said the doctor was talking to me about this B nerve or something. I don't know. And I said, oh. And then I told him, you know, briefly about the presentation. So I told him, that wasn't a coincidence. You need to check that out. So I'm just like a little sponge, and I just finished my holistic wellness coaching course. So these are all
it's all part of the same thing, isn't it?
It is, and it's just more tools for my toolbox. So I'm grateful.
I love it. I love it. This, we're going to talk about gratitude, but these learning keeps you young. It keeps you vibrant. It keeps your brain active. It's amazing. How about you, Wes? Tell us about yourself.
Wes Raki. I'm a physician practicing medicine for more than 40 years, hypnotherapy for last 10 years, and my most recent passion is theatrical and applied improvisation for last 7 years. Completing book with the provoking title, Yes to Disease and Healing, which applies to today's topic, gratitude. So I'm very looking forward to Patty's presentation. And I like this organization, as Patty said, because there is no politics, there is no nonsense, it's just camaraderie and information. And I'm sorry, missing this part. I'm going to go in the safe place for the next time.
That's great. Well, I'm so happy to see you this soon after I missed you on the weekend already. So how about you, Sandra?
My name is Sandra Ragland. I live in Holiday, Florida, just up the street from Patty, almost. I was disappointed. I had to cancel. I had to call Drury and, tell them I wasn't coming. And then I didn't realize, I didn't check my phone to know that you were doing it on Zoom. So I don't know if I can catch it after the fact or what. I don't know.
Absolutely. Anyway. Did you register? Talk to me after, because I thought you did. Anybody who registered, they will get access to all the recordings.
Okay.
So.
Gratitude. I practice gratitude on most days, but I am human, and there are days that it slides off the cracker. Some days it's just grateful that I'm breathing. I have a roof over my head. Then there are other days that I could make a list that's 20, 30 items long, so I'm always interested in integrating that and increasing that.
Nice. And she didn't say it, but I know Sandra is a acupuncturist for many years. So
21 years.
21 years. Yeah. So I'm so glad to see you. Yes. And we have Tony, who is named on here, ASB Designs.
I need to change that.
But it's making me remember your name. You're forcing me to have to remember your name now.
I am Tony Baumgartner. I am getting certified under Jessica Hansen in Wilmer, Minnesota. I live in Olivia. I come from a background of energy work, intuitive, shamanic, and I love this organization and hypnosis. So that's me. Great. And again, this organization, a couple of you said that, I am representing the HEA as a chapter president and as HEA president this year and next year. But this organization that puts these together is me. It's Up Hypnosis Institute, the training arm of my company, which the UP stands for, by the way, Unlimited Possibilities. So UP is the theme of my life. I've always been into energy. Tony, you're talking about energy. And we talked about this past weekend with all the amazing presenters. When we did our panel at the end, it got into the discussion about energy, and thought is energy.
Absolutely.
Thought is energy. It's the most powerful energy we have, I believe. And it got into some really interesting discussions. So if any of you are getting the recordings, I would highly recommend you listen to the Friday night social. A lot of craziness, a lot of silliness, a lot of fun, and a lot of nuggets of brilliance, in my opinion, that pop out when you're just, that's why I said, when you're just relaxing and bantering with people that have been in this field for a while, you get these amazing little things that you wouldn't get in their presentations or anywhere else. And also the panel, same thing. We got off on all kinds of stuff. And the theme was shifting the paradigm of hypnosis, because a lot of people still, I've been doing this 30 years, but a lot of people still are a little iffy when they come into this field of using the term hypnosis, which I have to admit, I cringe a little bit when I hear someone starting in this field with that kind of an attitude this late, because when I started, there really wasn't as much medical, but let me tell you, even 30 years ago, there was a wealth of medical literature out there that talks about the amazing benefits of hypnosis, hypnotherapy, and these mind type energy things that we do. And there's science behind it. So I always said, I love educating people. I feel like all of us are kind of responsible for spreading the good word that this is not what, I mean, they used to think chiropractors were witch doctors back when I had a back injury in the 1970s. The doctor would not even refer you to a chiropractor. So this is how fast things are changing, right? I'm a little older now, but you know what? I never ended up doing what the doctor wanted me to do, which was going down the road of surgeries and all these things, and the list of things, even with that, I was never going to be able to do. And that started the next level of my journey, learning how to heal myself with my mind. I took a different route that was not conventional in those days. So my mind told me that was not my future that doctor was creating, and nobody else was around. And back then I was a naive little 19-year-old girl who didn't have any reason not to believe every word a doctor said. But that intelligence came from within me somewhere, so loud and so absolute that I never doubted it for a second. And I walked out the door and never went back. And I found other things. The biggest part of what I found, well, the chiropractor got me to where I could stand up straight again. That was nice. The physical symptom he started working on, but the healing occurred because of my thought processes, because of what I did in my mind. And 2 years later, I went on the road with a band. I spent 20 years in show business, singing, dancing, doing everything I was never supposed to be able to do, and never looked back. And then years later, here I am. Hypnosis is what I've been prepared for all those years. And the mind is so powerful. And the thing is, if you think back, I wanted to start this a little bit with all of you just taking a moment here, and you can close your eyes or keep them open. You're all professionals here. I don't need to talk to you like someone who doesn't know what this is all about. And think about from your history, maybe 2 or 3 major moments in your life that gave you something spectacular that you now carry with you through life. And start with one, maybe just one, make it one, and if you think of an event or a moment or a situation that you survived or got through, or maybe it was a happy moment. For me, most of the ones that gave me the most, when I think back, they end up being things that at the time I wished I didn't have to live through. And I'm sure you've got a few things like that for you, because we don't build resilience and resources necessarily, at least definitely not to the level that we do with adversity and when things are going great. The happy moments, we know we can store them and anchor them and relive them and readdress them, and use them to keep us strong and to keep us grateful for our life. But also, again, those times that we kind of, if we would have planned it, we wouldn't have made those things happen. When we look back on them now, we can, at least I know I do. I say, if that hadn't happened, it wouldn't have led to this. And it wouldn't have led to this other thing that was just the most amazing shifts in my life. So I'm sure all of you have things like that. And to be grateful for the crises that you lived through is a little bizarre, unless you're talking to someone in this field, maybe. Because those are the times we gather resources, we have experience that can then enhance our life in ways that are even better than they would have been had we not lived through that or learned that or survived that or whatever it is. So do y'all kind of have things like that in your lives? Yeah. And of course, like I said, the highs, I think of this work as being something that allows us to have even higher highs, that we can tap into the ability to really let ourselves, give ourselves permission to enjoy those moments when it does go the way we want. This past weekend, I was telling my husband this morning, I said, it far exceeded my wildest expectations of how great that conference was going to be. And I always love going to hypnosis conferences. I mean, what a better place to soak up some positive energy, right? But this one actually exceeded my expectations. And I was like bouncing off the walls when I woke up this morning. I was like, that was so amazing. I said something like, can I just stop now? I was like, sometimes you wish you could I just freeze this moment and just let this. And then of course the day went on and there's another situation going on in my life that the nosedive started, and I went, okay, good thing I started up here because now I can kind of stay up here and be grateful. And what an amazing weekend. So we all benefit from being in the company of people that can feed our energy. We know about mirror neurons now, right? The people you're around, the reason that we model our people we're around growing up is those mirror neurons. We're watching, and I'm not a scientist, I'm talking in layman's terms about things that I love to read about that corroborate the natural order of how I've noticed humans function. And when we're around people that are positive, it's easier for us to stay up, right? And if you have anybody in your family or in your life situations that you, for whatever reasons, have to be around for certain spaces of time that aren't those kind of up positive people, then you know that you also can draw on your own inner resources to help yourself stay in a positive space inside of yourself to the point where that person doesn't drag you down with them. And I'm sure we all know somebody in our life or have known someone in our life. I've known just a few where after you get to know them after a while, you're almost afraid when you see them to say, so how you doing, right? Because you know what's going to come. And, I've had people, there's a couple that I can think of that, those are people we have to train ourselves to be empathetic, to be compassionate, to be loving and caring and supportive of if we care about them at all, and protect ourselves. So there's something about gratitude also to me that strengthens us. I was going to read a quote here for you. And it says, cultivate the habit of being grateful for every good thing that comes to you and to give thanks continuously. And because all things have contributed to your advancement, you should include all things in your gratitude, kind of like what I was just talking about. And that's, anybody know who that, does that sound like anyone that, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Ralph, that's hard to say, Ralph Waldo Emerson, that R and W get turned around in my mouth there. So the word gratitude, of course, comes from the Latin word gratia or gratia. I'm not sure how to pronounce that because I'm not Latin. If you know, tell me. But it means grace. And if you've studied any kind of theologies or any kind of spiritual type thing, that word grace is really in metaphysics, all of that. We use the word grace for a very powerful force, don't we? In past life regression, if you've ever studied that, they talk about grace erases karma. That's how powerful it is considered to be. I kind of equate it with the same kind of power as the word or the meaning of the word love is. So grace and love kind of go, I think, hand in hand. And saying thank you, people, I gave someone a compliment just yesterday. It was funny. And it was someone I had just met in person the first time, but I had met and talked to online a lot and interacted with. We already had a nice rapport and friendship started, but I had just been with this person yesterday for the first time. And I gave them a compliment that was really sincere and from my heart, just from my interactions with this person so far. And they started to discount it instantly.
Oh,
Yeah. Now, being who I am, because I'm sure I did that years past. I may still do it once in a while if I'm not in the right state, but hopefully I can catch myself now. And it was a thing that made me think sometime in the future I'd like to have a conversation with this person about that, because when you start to discount, and of course that's not the intention, if you give someone a compliment or if someone gives you a compliment and you start to discount it or say, oh well, and put, even use hand gestures, the body language to go with it, it's really like a slap in the face to the person who just complimented. It's really an insult. So saying thank you is just a beautiful thing. And here's the other side of that for those of us that do inner work and energy work and all of this kind of thing, change work, and help other people do change work within themselves, is that thanking yourself sometimes it even is more challenging than thanking someone else for a compliment. So I like to think at this time of year to remind myself, again, because I used to be the kind of person that was very insecure, believe it or not, maybe that's why I needed hypnosis, go into show business to get me out of my comfort zone. And boy, does that do it for you. But I was always very insecure, very self-conscious, very, there are a few times in my earlier life when I felt very insignificant, very unimportant. And, you can do all kinds of years of psychiatric and psychology to figure that out. Or you can do what I did, go into show business, do a lot of deep trance identification exercises, and be silly and funny on stage a lot, and be very motivated and appreciate things, and work your way out of it, and then graduate to become a hypnotherapist. I think it's the perfect transition for what I do, because Wes knows all about improv, right? And if you're self-conscious, well, something unexpected happened and you have a big room full of live audience in front of you, you don't have time to get nervous or start thinking about what should I do with this fake turkey that just fell into the audience. That happened actually one time on stage. I worked with a lady who she's one of the ones that gets known in theater as being someone that's dangerous to be on stage with, because she would have these little accidents all the time, and they usually made you look foolish instead of her, right? And it made me have to think really fast. So those kind of things, improv in life is a great quality to develop within yourself. So I would highly recommend, if you have any way to attend anything that Wes Rocky does, because he talks about improv. And I can't wait till you finish that book. You don't have it finished yet, right? Is it going to be about all these things? Yeah, because that resonates with me. If you can live your life thinking anything unexpected that comes at me, no matter how horrible it is, no matter how great it is, because also we want to be able to improvise when something amazing happens. Otherwise, we might be so caught up in our own stuff of our life, we might not be in that open awareness, and we might not gain the full benefit and appreciation and happiness that we can get from something positive happening. We'll be in too much of a brain fog, we used to call it, right? So if you can do little things to keep yourself actively able to shift your state instantly and clear the fog. And there are processes we know in hypnosis that can do this. And I have one called pivotal response conditioning. Sounds really cool, doesn't it? That's why I came up with that. It's really cool. So, and that's part of my thesis work for my degree that I did. And I thought it sounded good. And as the years went on, it developed into something I realized is quite useful for shifting into the state for, in this moment, what is the most productive state and resilient state I can be in to deal with whatever happens. And you don't always have time to say, wait a minute, I need to go get ready to deal with this and take, 20 minutes or 2 hours and get into a better state. We don't always have that luxury, do we, in life? So to me, it's about instantly training, and we can do it with hypnosis and these neurolinguistics, processes, to train in quickly how to shift. It's a beautiful thing to do. It's fun. And it allows you, again, to enjoy the highs even higher when they're happening, to anchor them and to bring them and have them available at the times when you maybe, aren't feeling so great and you want to pick yourself up a little bit. So there you go. And if you're in chaos, you'll be the one that's snapping into focus and getting stuff done and helping everybody else who's freaking out and having panic attacks and going crazy. And if we're hypnotherapists, hopefully that's part of our training, and our goal is to be one of those people that stays focused. It doesn't mean you don't care what's happening. It means I'll worry about it, or feel something about it later that would debilitate me. But right now, I'm going to shift into an action state. I'm going to shift into a focused state where I can think clearly. Because when people start panicking, as we know, the brain fog sets in. They start getting the blood goes to other parts of the body, and the brain can't think clearly. So it's nice to have people around that can calm them, that can think for them, that can tell them, here, go this way, do this right now. Let's tie your leg up because, we got to wait for the ambulance or whatever it is that's happening. So there you go. So does that make sense to everybody? Pretty cool, huh? That's what we all do, isn't it? We're in a great profession. But that's the thing is I say train from everybody. I've got so many certifications in hypnosis, I can't count them all. And each one built on the one before it, each one made me better at what I do, in my opinion anyway. Okay, so here's the thing, Latin word again, when you say thank you, you're giving the person back a gift. They just gave you a gift and a compliment, give them back a gift. So if you have something you're saying in your own head that's not nice to yourself, give yourself a compliment. Start complimenting yourself on, well, I might not have done my best when I did that thing that I've been beating myself up about. But, I'm going to hit pause for a second and I'm going to say, you know what? I got through it. Here's what I learned, that now next time I know I can prepare this way a little more, or I can practice this thing a little bit between now and the next time I do that kind of thing. There's what did I learn? And give yourself some nice compliments and say thank you to yourself, because we talk to ourselves all the time. And it's important that we are gracious about accepting that, because that again takes that pressure off and allows you to learn, allows you to grow, allows you to take whatever there is from that experience and build your character, build your strengths, build your resilience, whatever it is. So gratitude's not just an action. And I'm reading off some notes here, so forgive me, but I like to have bullet points and then we talk about them. Gratitude's not just an action, it's a positive emotion. And it serves a biological process, just like we were talking about, or purpose. Positive psychology talks a lot about, when I was doing research last year and the year before on this, there's a whole lot of great stuff in positive psychology, which is now like a whole field. It's a whole nother field. And it's a cool name. The first time I heard it a few years ago, I go, that kind of sounds like what Norman Vincent Peale used to talk about. And I'm sure those were the seeds that brought about. And then I thought, somebody was just so darn clever and came up with a whole field called positive psychology. And I thought, wish I'd have thought of that. What a great name for a whole nother field of study. And they talk a lot about that. So there's a nice thing, nice place to go to get more ideas about everything, plus gratitude. And they define gratitude. They say scientists can measure the effects of gratitude. They literally can measure it. It's a deeper appreciation for someone or something that produces longer lasting positivity, right? Now, my mantra is, in connection with my unlimited possibilities, is think up. The up to me stands for standing up, feeling up, looking up, having your energy up. Because we know when people are miserable, they're not up here. They're down and everything is down. And it really has a physiological effect on us, a biological effect. So appreciating things. And to me, positivity goes along with also, because sometimes to be positive, people that aren't positive, and again, the people I've known that I used I had my sister, bless her heart, I used her after I got into hypnosis as a study project, because before that, she just frustrated the heck out of me. And, I just loved her to death, but I could not understand her. So when I got into hypnosis, she became fascinating to me because she was the ultimate victim. And she died about a year ago, a very unhappy, angry person. And I thought about, people like that, when you're around them and you try to be positive, I only use her because she was my most dramatic example, but I've known other people like this too. If you try to point out something positive in, that's going on with their life or in the environment, or something they can just enjoy for a few minutes, look at that bird, whatever it is, that sometimes they don't even see the possibility of feeling better. They can't even imagine that anything could be possible to make their life better. So they tend, again, that brain fog sets in, the mind stops even recognizing possibilities of any other state than being negative. And their mind then gets wired that way, and it ends up being just the way they walk through their world. And the good news about that is that we know that we can start to turn that around. Someone I was talking with recently talked about it's a spiral. And they get deeper and deeper and deeper into that spiral again, where they can't see outside of that hole they've dug to see, you know, there really is this little thing that is kind of, if I really think about that, I can feel pretty good about that. But, you know, starting incrementally, the deeper the person goes, sometimes we got to pull them out very slowly and get them to start to recognize and open up their awareness to be a little bit more open to a possible different experience, different state. And we know we can do that with our clients in the pre-talk and with using hypnotic and NLP processes. Anybody got any comments? I want you all to contribute too. I know this is quick, but I want to add you all in. Wes.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful exploration, Patty. I agree that the gratitude is not the action, rather is state of consciousness. And for me, translating in my language, this is the way how do I say yes to what is. And this is the way which I am in the now, what is now in front of me. So this is that unconditional consciousness level of gratitude. And then there is another gratitude for me, which is about energy management, because this is the gratitude when we are sick. And I am talking about really big sickness. And then, you know, people say, be grateful. And people say, how come? You know, how come to be grateful for what? But then that is the moment to be really grateful, not for the disease, but for the body doing extra time in self-healing and self-regulation. Because we don't know, you know, medicine doesn't know, nobody knows how much work, energetic work, body needs to do extra when our life is threatened. And also what we really don't know, that we don't know whether disease is always a pathology. Sometimes disease is a sign of healing, actually. So the
Interesting.
best,
Yeah. Great point.
So the best we can do is to be in gratitude to what is happening, which keeps us alive and thinking no matter what, because that is energy management, which is our part in self-healing. So thank you so much, Patty, for the topic, and what you are saying is so beautiful. Thank you.
I love what you said about it, and that really gets into some deeper. I started a series called Deep Dive. I've only done 2 of them so far, but it's something that that stimulates me. What you just said, it stimulates me to want to delve deeper into that aspect of disease and healing. And I think there are elements of having discussions like that among people that are trained hypnotists, and to start really getting deeper into those kinds of things that can give us clues as to how to help people and ourselves, of course. Hopefully we're all doing this work for ourselves. I know I'm always working on myself. That's how I got into this. Most people, I think, do come into this because they did some kind of a healing or something happened that got their attention, and then they, you know, the universe says, now here's what you're doing next or something. But yeah, that's a beautiful, beautiful thought. And again, when you're in the middle of pain or a disease or a crisis like that, it's not something simple to be able to just shift and think of it that way. But as using the kinds of nice language and rapport that we have with hypnosis, given permission by a client coming to us for help, we can begin to introduce ideas so that they can discover some of these things on their own, right?
Yeah, this is on their own, because, you know, our profession is so beautiful because in essence, we are magicians, we are alchemists. We are allowed to go to the places when no other profession can go. And this is the place when people want to meet the healer. That's
great. I love that. Anybody else have any comments or anything? That just started my brain going in a bunch of different directions. Yeah, Jan.
I guess if people really know me, I have like three things that just constantly, and we talked a little bit about it at the spring conference. One of them is the words that we use. I talked to you guys afterwards about one of the workshops I did about the power of our words. And the other two things is be love in action and always be grateful. So when I'm at work and somebody comes in, or one of the coworkers come up and it's like, hey, it's Thankful Thursday. Tell me something you're thankful for. And they're like, I don't know. I can't think of anything. I don't have really. And I'm like, oh, come on. Or they'll say, I don't know, just life in general. I'm like, no. Start being specific about it, because when you start being specific about what you're grateful for, then you realize how much more you have to be grateful for. If I just say life, well, what about life? I have eyes that see and ears that hear and a heart that loves. I have a chance to be love in action every day, and you have a chance to make a difference. So I guess I want people to be really aware of gratitude. And when I saw you were going to do this, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right up my alley, because that's one of my themes that, if you know me, that's something I really am big on. So yeah, just count your blessings.
That's
really
yeah, that's a great point too, because again, some people they lose sight of the obvious things that we can be grateful for, because we, the old saying, we take it for granted, the things that are just always there, like you said, your eyes work, your ears work, your heart's beating. And I started saying years ago, there was something I started saying about, I guess I was going through a tough time for a while. And I said, as long as I wake up and my eyes open in the morning, there's still more for me to do here. But I just wrote down what you just said. I hope I wrote it right. You said, be love in action and always be grateful.
absolutely.
That simple little statement.
I tell people it's not you and me, it's us and we, and we're in this together. So be love in action. I don't care if you just stand there and let your light shine, and you're like a lighthouse, so other people can see in the dark. That's just be love in action.
That is so beautiful. I love that. And again, to start with clients, we can point out little things, like you said, like, when you woke up this morning, did you, were you breathing? If they have pain, you can say, while you were sleeping, were you aware of that pain? Wow, your mind and body gave you some relief from that for a few hours there, and, it may, depending on the answers, you may have to dig a little more and find some, but there's always things to be grateful for. And then that makes that connection and opens the door and allows them to start then going. And I think gratitude journals, I'm big on that with people anyway, being grateful. And a lot of times with people who come to a hypnotherapist, I start with the first 5 things you write down at night before you go to sleep. I want it to be things you're grateful for that you did today. Things you did, things you thought, things you practiced, things, if I'm giving them some.
The awareness.
Yeah.
That awareness, that's what it starts.
And again, the biological side of it, Bruce Lipton, he knows about the cells and the expression of cells and things, and all the people that study the brain. We know that once you start putting it in that direction and do it for a little bit, it starts to take on a whole nother life of its own, where you do become more aware, like you said. You start to notice more things to be grateful for, because last night I did that gratitude journal. And today, and now all of a sudden I just noticed, oh yeah, there's been that cardinal, and it's been landing outside my window every time I go to work in my office. And it just comes to see me, just little things that we just, and then every time they're in that kind of a state, especially if they're coming to us for something, that's a disease or a condition or something very serious, but anybody, it starts to heal the body. As soon as you're in that state of gratitude, your body goes instantly into that healing mode, much more dramatically than even when you're just in neutral, right?
It's just a whole different form of reference. I know a couple of years ago, I went to my doctor because I thought I had a blood clot in my leg, and I didn't, but he sent me to the hospital to have it checked out. And I was talking to one of the girls that came in to get some information from billing or something. And we started talking about our words that we use and stuff. And I told her I don't take ownership of the disease. I deal with it. I don't want to own it. And she's like, oh my gosh, I I think she says, I think we're always where we need to be at any given moment, which of course I believe that. And she said, and right now I feel you're here for me.
Nice.
And she went on to tell me that she had stage 4 liver cancer and it had spread. And I don't know. I was so grateful at that moment that me being in the emergency room wasn't about me. It was about her. I was there for her.
Interesting.
And it was just taking the whole, I was just so grateful. I knew that whatever was wrong with me, I was going to be okay, which I had my kidney out, but
something good came out of it that wouldn't have been, yeah.
No, and I'm so grateful for all those lessons along the way that got me to the point that in that moment I could see there was a bigger picture.
Nice.
It was amazing.
Yeah, that was kind of one of the themes this weekend is out of chaos, opportunities are created, right? And because of having to go online at the last day or two, we had another, I think, 10 or 11 people sign up for the conference because they weren't going to be able to come in person. And because of that, we were able to record it. So there's, it's all kinds of making decisions and shifting and doing what you can with whatever happens opens up possibilities. I just love that word. Let me read you one more quote here real quickly. And I love your input. I like for people to have input here because I learned from you as well. The Harvard Medical School. Here's what Harvard Medical School says gratitude is: a thankful appreciation for what an individual receives, whether tangible or intangible. With gratitude, people acknowledge the goodness in their lives. As a result, gratitude also helps people connect to something larger than themselves as individuals, whether to another person, to nature, or a higher power. And that's the Harvard Medical School. And I thought, good for them. That really takes it to that next level and talks about what it gives you. And then there's all kinds of scientific definitions that I won't fool with here. But here's something interesting. When you're feeling a sense of gratitude, people recognize the source sometimes lies outside of themselves. So it gets you out of your own, drama that might be going on. That can be a good thing in itself. And as a result, it helps people to connect to something larger than themselves, other people. We just talked about that. Positive psychology research on gratitude shows that strongly and consistently, you have greater happiness when you're being grateful. You feel more positive emotions. That's kind of obvious. You relish the good experience. That's kind of what I was talking about earlier. You're able to really enjoy fully those good experiences and have them then as memories that you can tap into maybe when you can use them. Improves health, absolutely. Deal with adversity, helps you to deal with adversity and build strong relationships. So, and there's a whole, like I said, there's so much great stuff out there on gratitude. Now, this hour goes so fast. Anybody got any comments or anything on that or on anything that we've talked about so far? I love that kitty cat. I love cats. I'm just a cat person. I was thinking if there was time, maybe going through a process, but time isn't going to allow it tonight. But I have a script that I wrote many years ago. And again, scripts, I love writing scripts for hypnotists, especially if they're writing a hypnosis script, is a creative experience. It allows you to go into state and let your mind come up with some creativity. And when you're writing it for a generic audience or a generic person that you don't have specifics about, it forces you to get even more creative with your language. So I think it's a great exercise in creativity. And I think scripts are good learning tools to learn, oh, here's a way I wouldn't have thought of to say that, that kind of thing. And then you have all that stored so that when the client's in front of you, of course, we let all that kind of drift to the background. We get in touch and connect with our client and we improv, right, Wes? Hopefully you get to that point very quickly, that you improv because it's already there. And if you're connected and in that light alpha state with your client, with that intention of wanting to help them, and you've heard their story already, your mind will creatively have things flying out of your mouth that you couldn't have planned for previously anyway, because they happen in the moment. And then you improv off of that and go to the next thing and you watch for the response you get, and you keep that flow going and that connection, and your unconscious is reading from their nonverbal communication. And I believe it's some kind of a psychic level, or whatever you want to call that other level. There's a lot of names for it and a lot of belief systems that can support it. But regardless, if somebody doesn't have any of that, it still shows up when you're in that state. Because I've had people that said they were atheists that I worked with through the years, a couple that come to mind. And one in particular that after the session said, I'm an atheist and I don't believe in stuff beyond, and of course I tailor the session to what they're going to be open to. But I also tend to I like to get into that abstract world in the hypnosis once they're in there, because I know that's where the unconscious lives. That's where it has the freedom to find those possibilities for this person. But this guy said, I don't believe in any of that. And he still didn't. But he said, but I got to tell you, I know that I got some information from somewhere that I can't explain. He says, I don't know where that came from. And he got some real helpful assistance with whatever the challenge was he was facing. So like I said, it's available, it's there. And hypnosis gets anyone into, if they allow themselves to go into that state, stuff's going to show up to try to help them. Because the whole design, that amazing, miraculous design in hypnosis, we're taught about the blueprint, the perfect blueprint that we have, right? And in the cells in the body and the memories and the intelligence that's all in there, most of which is outside of our awareness, obviously. So when we start to heal, like Wes said, it's a miracle what our body does to fight something that's happening or that's coming into the body, or that we breathed or ate or drank or whatever, however it got there, that isn't part of the natural order of the system. It's amazing the resources that instantly from the unconscious healing part of the mind that just start throwing all kinds of resources at it to attempt healing, to assist healing. If it's a medicine, it's going to assist with maybe helping, hopefully, to mitigate some of those side effects. Yeah, Renee.
I'm really, really grateful for scripts myself personally, because I feel it's like a nice blanket. And it allows me to, first of all, it's a whole new different language. I mean, people don't talk that way, and there are bits that you need to do, and a script kind of helps you get into the flow. And I can see, later to want to make it your own, but you have to know how to make the dress first before you create a new fashion line.
That's a great analogy. I like that. Yeah.
Thank you. And I used to do guided meditations, which I've been told by you that, girl, you're there. You just don't have a couple pieces that are in that. And I had a script that I thought was beautiful. And a girlfriend of mine who's like the Energizer Bunny, the woman cannot sit still. And she said, I can never meditate. I can never do any of these things. And I said, well, I need to practice. So just let me talk and you can do whatever it is you want to do. And by the end of it, the woman was crying and said that that was the most beautiful thing she ever heard. And that she was so happy, and I'm like, but sweetie, that was meditation. You were there.
Very sweet.
But people expect something else. So I've had a good experience with using a script. Yeah. So
it's funny, Michael Watson he's like we're like this. From the time we met 21, 22 years ago, we are connected, extremely connected. I love him. I just love him. And I am so thankful that I didn't originally have my first hypnosis training with him, because he doesn't use scripts. He doesn't. And I'm with you. To me, there are training tools, especially in the beginning stages of the trainings that I do. And I think like I said, for a hypnotist, I think writing scripts is a great exercise in stretching your creative juices. It's like I used to write songs in my previous career, right? And songwriting is a creative endeavor, and it's meant to evoke emotion, right?
Right.
So you have to be in a light state of what now I know was hypnosis. The best songs I wrote were when I was in an emotional state, because I did some country songs, and when somebody broke my heart, I wrote my best songs. You know what I'm saying? But when you're in a heightened state of awareness, which is hypnosis or a strong emotion, that's when your creativity is just ready to express itself. Oh, look at you! You've got my mind,
So
body,
I
cool.
read your whole bio and like, oh, she wrote this. and
Oh,
she
you're
did
so
that, and
sweet.
I was like, cool.
Oh,
we
I
have
feel
a
so
lot in
special.
common. We'll have to talk sometime. It's
I
gonna
feel
be
so
easy.
special, definitely. So again, that's the thing. So if you would like to have a script that I've got a couple of them, one's gratitude and one's on thanking, I forget the name on it now, but I did that one last year, I think, during this. But if you'd like to have it, I would guess that probably Sandra has it, because I think she has everything I ever wrote or recorded at this point. But if you'd like to have a copy of it, and by the way, every time I pull it up to look at it to use in a class, guess what happens? I start
Rewrite it.
changing things. I add things.
Yeah.
I add a word here and there. I change a word here and there. Because, you know, as I evolve as a hypnotist, I go, oh, I'm going to change that. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But this time I changed a little bit. But it's called Attitude of Gratitude, which, of course, is an obvious, in songwriting, we call them hooks. You know, it's an obvious title, but I'm sure I'm not the first person that came up with that. And as a matter of fact, it was on some of the websites I looked up. It's just a great little saying. And for our clients, if we can get them to start forming an attitude of gratitude, and if that's your baseline for where you live your life, oh my God, what an amazing, better day you're going to have if you start with that baseline, right? So,
And the other one is a thankful, something thankful, yet another script.
It's I think they're both in. I have a script book that I wrote that's on my website that I sell. It's Scripts, Tips, and Tidbits for the Evolving Hypnotist. I'm ready to do a whole nother one now because I wrote that many years ago. And I noticed some of my old scripts say subconscious mind. Oh, self-conscious. That was kind of a faux pas, but it's kind of true, isn't it? Our subconscious mind is our self-conscious mind. But anyway,
Yeah.
but I used to use the word subconscious. Now I tend to use the word unconscious, but it means the same to me. That stuff that's outside of our awareness. I keep it simple. I know some books have 5 layers of mind. That's too complicated for me. You know, I might show it to my students and say, okay, here's what some people say, but in here we're going to say conscious and unconscious, or subconscious. You know, there's what you're aware of and there's what you're not aware of. And most of what's going on is what you're not aware of. That's the important parts, right? That's the healing mind, the part that you're not aware of. But your conscious mind can connect with it and assist your unconscious to help you to heal even better. And there's multiple studies that have proven that.
Oh, yeah.
Not that it isn't already wanting to heal you every minute of every day. It's always working toward balance and health and all of that. But with our mind, we can accelerate it. We can enhance it. We can make it even more dramatic. So why would you not want to learn that? Right?
Yeah. I've had people who are just saying, you know, well, your body can't, you know, you get to a certain place and your body can't heal itself. And I'm like, your body made your child. Your body made a hand and an arm
There
and
you
a
go.
leg. Your body,
That's
I mean,
right.
it's amazing what your body made.
See, and that's why my company, that's why I like that unlimited possibilities, because anytime somebody tells me something, a human tells me something that's an absolute, my instant instinct is to push it aside, not to discount it at all, but to say, wow, they seem like an expert. I'm going to consider they might be 100% right, but I'm going to keep all of the rest of this open for more information. Because guess what? I still remember, I'm old enough to remember back when I was growing up and in my 20s, they told us, you know who they are. They told us that when you get into your older years, it's impossible to build muscle. And then guess what happened? I think it was in the 1970s, must have been late. I think I was in my mid to late 20s because I was really into bodybuilding and nutrition all of a sudden and all that stuff. And I found an article where they said, oops, we made a mistake on that. They did a study with 70-year-olds. And this study showed that when they started working out with doing weight training, which was what I was really into back then, that weight training built muscles even in people in their late 70s. So guess what? All those decades that they were telling people don't bother working out when you're older because, you know, you can't. And it wasn't true. And if people would just be open their eyes and be a little more aware, they would have seen there are exceptions to that. Anybody remember Jack LaLanne? I think he was 80 and he was still, See, some of you aren't as old as I am, but you know, Jack LaLanne was one of those people that no matter what age he was at, he was still fit and doing all the good stuff, you know. So, and there's always exceptions to that. So it's nice to look around your world and to be open, like I said, be aware, which is what hypnosis helps us to be more aware, and be grateful and Find role models, find people that break the norm, that are the exception to the rule that everyone who has this condition, is doomed for whatever the fate is the doctor has to, because of liability, tell you. They could be wrong. They were wrong about my back. Thank goodness I didn't listen, or I would have missed all of this. I would have missed 20 years of a lot of fun in show business and dancing and singing and all that good stuff, right? And so again, it's not about discounting anything. It's about just being open to more, because life is always changing. What we know is always changing, and science is not stagnant. Anybody who says the science is settled, they're not a scientist. I'm sorry, but when someone says science is settled on anything, they're not. It's not even that defies the definition of science. Science is all about, even Einstein. Einstein was great for trying to disprove things that he had already figured out. He spent years working on finding why he was wrong with what he just got a Nobel Prize or whatever it was for. He would spend years trying to find out, because he would get another idea in his head and he'd say, I have a feeling there's more there, and he wasn't afraid to pursue more things. So science is not something about being settled, and our mind is not limited. I call it the unlimited mind. That's what my World Hypnotism Day event every year has been called, your unlimited mind, because that's what I really believe. And the mind is to me, the key. And I had a sign I used to use when I would do trade shows, and it said, unlimited possibilities. And it said something about when the mind and body work together, the possibilities are unlimited or something. And this guy walked up to the table and he said, you're missing something there. And I realized he had a collar on, right? And I knew what he was going to say right away. I was ready for him. He said, you're missing a word there, the mind and body. You're missing spirit or soul or whatever he said. And I said, you know what? It's implied, because the mind is the gateway to all of what we are. So if you believe in a soul or a spirit or whatever, another word you might have for everything we are, our essence, I like that word, essence, the essence of me, because you can't destroy energy. So I figure there's something else going on besides this physical form. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not going to pretend I know exactly what that is, because then I become someone who counters my own belief system, which means I don't know everything, but I'm open to learning even more about all this. So to me, the mind is the center. It's the key that we have the privilege of working with people, and we've learned how to use, that opens up to the intelligence within each cell in the body, that opens up to the intelligence of whatever you believe to be that intelligence and life in the universe. So, and that might be a little too woo-woo for some people, so I wouldn't talk to everybody that way, obviously, if they're clients or someone. But it's the idea that it opens up everything. Everything, one of my first teachers said, everything starts with a thought. When you're a human, everything starts with a thought. And where you take that thought is going to determine your experience as a human being. So if you don't like where it took you, if your client doesn't like where it's taking them now, we have the ability to teach them how to think a different thought, reframing, right? We can teach them how to start thinking differently. Sometimes it has to be incremental, a little bit at a time. Sometimes it can be dramatic in the first session, but we can help them to start to consider other ways of thinking. And then their state changes and they go, oh, this feels a little better. And then you can build on that, right? So it's really, it all starts with the mind and where they follow it or where they take it, where they allow their thoughts to go. So anybody got any last comments? We're actually over. Oh, I apologize. Oh, geez. I have a hard time stopping talking. Has anyone noticed that? Sandra? She's known me a long time.
I can listen to you all night. You know that. And I do.
Well, I don't like to keep people over, though. And so thank you, Jan. Thank you, Renee. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Wes. And I'm so glad you're here and safe. I'm so glad you are okay. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Bless you. You inspired me. I hope I gave you some inspiration. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.